This week on Lower Decks, we got to see a new type of Federation starship, and as a total Trekkie geek, I love it when that happens. But is this really the Federation's first fully fledged killing machine? Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. Now, as we know, the USS Defiant was built as the Federation's really first attempt at a focused warship. Before then, they were famously a bit fragile. The Galaxy class, in fact, was almost like a flying hotel. It had families aboard, it had holodecks, it had, about 80% of the ship was for crew. It was not a particularly focused fighting machine, if and when that ever became necessary. Now, after the Borg, and then most definitely the Dominion War, the focus towards needing a warship became a little sharper, and the Federation did start to develop things like the Defiant and other vessels. But even the Defiant had a crew on board. It could do tasks like negotiations, or it could have an away team and do science missions and actually beam down to a planet and do things like that. It was more than just a warship, even though that was the primary focus. Now, on Lower Decks this week, we got to see a new class of starship, a Texas class.
Captain, incoming ship.
More Breen?
No, I think it's Starfleet.
Now, I actually think this is a very well-named class of starship, because if there's anything we know about Texans, they love guns, and they're fighting people, I think is fair to say. Our young American friend, Harris, that does the live shows with us on a Sunday, is a Texan. And when I said it's a Texan class and it's armed to its teeth, he thought that was very funny. 3 Breen interceptors have absolutely wiped out the Cerritos with almost no effort at all. I mean, I know the Cerritos isn't a fighting machine in itself, but they barely landed a glove on these 3 Breen vessels. We know from the Dominion War that the Breen are a warrior race and actually do have very capable starships. So when the USS Aledo turned up and creamed them, I think it's fair to say it showed that this vessel is a very capable fighting machine. We then find out it has no crew on board and it is a fully automated starship. Have they lost their minds? We know from Star Trek that whenever you have a machine, it will at some point go crazy and try to kill you. It happens over and over again. Or the computer will become sentient and try to kill us, which has happened over and over again. So it seems to me that having a fully automated starship like this is a death wish. But there are advantages to a fully automated drone-type starship like this. But saying that, though, they are all military-related. This is a purely military vessel. It has pretty much no other purpose because it doesn't have a crew on board. It cannot go to a scientific mission and send crew down to investigate something. It cannot adapt to things. On a scientific point of view, it could be used as basically a probe and be sent just to scan something. But if then something happens and you need crew, there isn't that option. So this vessel is designed to be a warship. It's designed to be maybe an escort, so to defend softer, weaker targets against an enemy. It's designed to patrol things like the neutral zone and again engage where there are threats. Even that role is limited because if there is an emergency, say some sort of accident or something like that, the ability for this vessel to then react and support such a problem would be limited. You could maybe use this vessel to transport very hazardous materials, maybe valuable hazardous materials, something that you want defended but you don't necessarily want people near. That's one possibility. But really, the primary reason for a starship like this is to kick ass. And it has already shown us it's very capable of that. I could completely see like a Sovereign class starship with 3 or 4 of these things fighting in tandem in an automated attack pattern against something like the Borg, and that these Texas class starships would be more expendable than the much larger capital ships. But mentioning the Borg, I'd be very nervous about these starships anywhere near the Borg. I could see the Borg absorbing these vessels into their technology or taking over these vessels very, very easily. I have to hope that that sort of thing has been considered, and there are loads and loads of safeguards. For one, it has to be some sort of AI that controls the starship. I'm hoping there are lots and lots of safeguards in there to stop that AI from becoming either sentient or just decided to kill everyone. I'm very hoping that there's lots of safeguards in place to stop the vessel being hacked or, as I say, attacked by the Borg and just completely taken over. And you have to hope that there are other safeguards in place. But let's be honest, this is just setting up a future Star Trek episode, probably on Lower Decks, where we see a Texas-class starship go crazy and try and kill us all. It's bound to happen because that's what always happens in Star Trek. Actually think of the starship. I thought it was stunning, I have to admit. I really like Lower Decks because I do consider it a love letter to TNG, which it just is. And TNG is still my favorite of all the Star Trek franchises. It's the one I grew up with, so it's my favorite. I love all the references to The Next Generation and Picard and all the rest of those characters that I just adore. I actually thought this was a really nicely designed ship. It looks great. I think as long as they've got those safeguarding in places to stop it from trying to kill us all, then it's a brilliant idea, and it's actually a piece of the Federation fleet that's been missing. I like any ship that can kick ass. Always good. But actually, this episode in Lower Decks, I just thought it was a very clever episode. It carried on as a normal Lower Decks episode for most of it, and then the Breen turned up, and then this attack at the end, this scene at the end that I've been running through the episode, is just it's not just a good episode of Lower Decks. It's just good Star Trek. If this had been a normal live action series, we'd all be going crazy at this. But because it's a cartoon, it doesn't maybe have the same importance, but it's still canon. Everyone says that Lower Decks is canon. So the USS Aledo and the Texas-class starship are now canon in Star Trek. And that is cool. But guys, get in the comments and tell me what you think. First of all, I'd love to know what you actually think about Lower Decks. Do you love it or hate it? Because it does seem to be the Marmite of Star Trek. If you're American, you might not get that reference, but if you're British, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Get in the comments and tell me exactly what you think. Also, what did you think about this starship idea? Do you think it is just doomed to fail and it's almost 100% going to turn around and try to kill us all, T2 style? Or do you agree with me that actually it's a brilliant fighting machine, and as long as they've thought about all those other instances where the machines have tried to turn on us in Star Trek, that actually it is a piece of the fleet that makes complete sense? I'd love to know exactly what you think. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out. And as always, if you enjoy the content and you want to support the channel, consider hitting the join button and becoming a fully fledged side trekker. As always, please stay safe. I'll see you next time.